Finally, we got what we asked for. It's about damn time. After demanding it, clamoring for it, Team USA finally puts Caitlin Clark into the starting lineup. However, everything that glitters ain't gold.
Did Caitlin Clark just silence the haters with one game? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. Because after Team USA's dominant win over New Zealand, something changed. Not just on the scoreboard, not just in the highlights, and not just in the usual social media reaction that follows every Caitlin Clark performance.
CC got me ready to go ball, y'all. You see that performance from the real point guard today? Man, I'm about to go to the gym and get a bucket. She got me ready to go get a bucket. What a game. What a game. Caitlin Clark put on an absolute display today versus New Zealand. Finally in the starting lineup. It took long enough.
The real change was in how people were forced to watch her. Before this game, there was still doubt around Caitlin Clark. There were still people questioning whether the hype had gone too far. There were still people acting like she needed to be handled carefully, protected from bigger moments, or slowly eased into this level.
Caitlin Clark leads all players through 4 games with 51 points and 25 assists. And today she had 14 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals. Leads all players through 4 games. The most points and the most assists. And the most efficient of them all as well.
Even with all the attention around her, there was still this feeling from some corners that the conversation had gotten ahead of the proof. But this game pushed back on that, because against New Zealand, Clark did not just have a nice outing in a comfortable Team USA win. She gave people another reminder that her impact is different. She made the game feel different, and by the end of it, the same people who wanted to minimize everything around her had a much harder job.
Caitlin Clark, we got to get into some of these highlights, man. I don't know what took them so long to start her, but it was about damn time, and boy, did she deliver with her first start with Team USA, man. Let's take a look at some of these clips. We got Caitlin Clark coming up the floor. This is the real point guard right here. Look at the playmaking, okay? Defender trailing, boom, look at that. Throwing that ball to the weak side. Paige Becker's right there, cash out. Those two together, oh my God, I wish they could play together for the Fever Chiefs. Oh my goodness.
That is why this performance mattered. Heading into the game, the discussion around Clark had already become part of the story. That happens with her now almost every time she steps on the court. It is never just about the next opponent. It is never just about the stat line. It is always about what people think she is, what they think she is not, and what they are still waiting to see. That is what made this game bigger than it should have been on paper, because Team USA beating New Zealand is not supposed to be shocking. A powerhouse beating a weaker opponent is not the headline. The headline becomes bigger when the player under the brightest spotlight changes the way the whole game feels. And that is exactly what happened here. From the moment Clark got involved, the flow looked sharper, the pace looked more dangerous, the spacing felt more stretched. Defenders had to think about her the second she touched the ball. That is the part people still struggle to explain when they talk about Caitlin Clark. They want to reduce her impact to just scoring or just highlights. But that is too small. Her real effect starts before the shot even goes up. She changes how defenses behave. She changes where defenders stand. She changes how much room everyone else gets. And once that starts happening, the whole game opens up. That is why one of the biggest takeaways from this performance was not just whether she scored, it was how often she made the defense react. A defender has to pick her up higher, a help defender hesitates a little longer. A passing lane opens because 2 people are worried about the same player. Those are the things that do not always scream at you from a box score. But if you watch closely, they tell the real story. And that story looks familiar, because this is what Clark has done everywhere. She did it in college. She has done it in the WNBA. And now, in a Team USA setting, you could see the same pattern again. The moment she settles into a game, the geometry changes. The defense stops looking comfortable. Everyone around her starts benefiting from the attention she creates. That is why this performance felt bigger than just one result. It was another piece of proof. And the strongest part of that proof was that it unfolded in front of everyone. This was not one of those quiet games where supporters have to dig through advanced numbers and explain why it mattered. This was visible. This was the kind of performance where even casual viewers could feel the difference. You did not need a breakdown board to understand it. You could see the pressure she puts on a defense. You could see the extra fear in the coverage. You could see the way the game sped up when she was involved. That is when the conversation starts changing, because doubt survives best when things feel theoretical. It survives when people can say, maybe later. It survives when people can say, let us wait and see. It survives when they can act like the flashes are not enough. But games like this damage that kind of argument. Games like this force people to move from theory to reality. They force people to stop debating the possibility and start dealing with the evidence. And for Clark, that matters because she has spent so much time as the center of a debate that was never only about basketball. The Caitlin Clark conversation has always had layers. There is the skill, there is the production, there is the attention, there is the pressure, there is the fan reaction, there is the media reaction. There are the people who celebrate everything she does. And there are the people who seem determined to lower the temperature every time she proves something. So when she has a game like this, the reaction is never small. It hits harder because the buildup was already emotional. That is why the phrase silenced the haters actually makes sense here, even if people usually overuse it. Because this was not about one critic being embarrassed by one stat line. It was about a whole style of criticism losing some of its power. If your argument was that Clark still needed to prove she could affect games at this level, moments like this are a problem for you. If your argument was that the hype was carrying her more than the basketball, moments like this are a problem for you. If your argument was that Team USA should keep treating her like a minor piece instead of a genuine weapon, moments like this are a problem for you. That is what changed. Not that every critic disappeared, not that every debate ended forever, but the balance shifted. The next time people try to question what she brings, there is now another performance sitting there in the evidence pile. Another reminder that her impact is not imagined. Another reminder that when she is trusted, things happen. And maybe that is the biggest point of all, because this game did not just say something about Caitlin Clark. It said something about Team USA too. It raised the question that keeps hanging over all of this. How much more proof do they need before fully leaning into what she creates? That is where this story gets really interesting. The early debate around Clark often focused on whether she could handle the level, but after performances like this, that question starts to fade. The new question becomes whether the team is ready to fully trust what is right in front of them, whether they are ready to stop thinking of her as a luxury and start thinking of her as a true engine, whether they are ready to admit that her presence changes the shape of the game in a way that very few players can. Because once people see it, they cannot unsee it. That is what happened against New Zealand. People saw the effect. They saw how quickly the pressure builds when Clark has the ball. They saw how the defense stretches. They saw how the tempo changes. They saw the confidence. They saw the control. They saw the kind of impact that makes you stop talking about potential and start talking about necessity. And that is dangerous for doubters, because doubters want uncertainty. Clark gave them clarity. They want to keep the conversation vague. Clark made it concrete. They want to act like the belief around her is exaggerated. Clark gave people another reason to believe even more. That is why this game landed the way it did. Yes, Team USA won comfortably. Yes, the result itself matters. But the bigger story is that this was one of those games where the narrative around a player tightened. One of those games where the room for dismissal got smaller. One of those games where people had to admit, even if quietly, that the player they were doubting keeps changing what happens when she is out there. And that is why this felt like more than just another win. Before the game, there was doubt. After the game, there was proof. Before the game, people were still asking whether Caitlin Clark belonged in this conversation at the highest level. After the game, the better question felt like this: how far can she take it if Team USA gives her even more? So let me ask you again, did Caitlin Clark just silence the haters with one game, yes or no? Let me know in the comments. And if you are still watching, drop silenced in the comments.